In West Africa, there's a nation that just pulses with the energy of an entire continent. It's a place of incredible scale, breathtaking complexity, and, just boundless potential. This is the story of Nigeria.
Just let that sink in for a second. On a continent with more than 1.4 billion people, 1 out of every 6 of them calls this single nation home. It's a scale that's almost hard to wrap your head around. So, what really makes this country a giant? Is it just the numbers, or is it something more?
For decades, Nigeria has been called the Giant of Africa. It's a name that comes from its enormous population and its economic muscle. In this explainer, we're going to unpack that title. We'll look at the people, the power, and the really big challenges that define this continental powerhouse. And that story has to begin with its people.
Yeah, to really get Nigeria, you have to start with the people. Because it isn't just a country. In a lot of ways, it's like a continent of different cultures and nations, all living within one border. The numbers are just mind-blowing. With over 236 million people, Nigeria is easily the most populous country in Africa, and it's the 6th largest on the entire planet. So we're not just talking about a regional heavyweight here. This is a global demographic giant.
But these raw numbers kind of hide a much more complex truth. Sure, the Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo are the biggest ethnic groups, but look at that other category. That's where the real story is. That nearly 40% represents this vast, intricate tapestry of hundreds of distinct peoples, and each one has its own language, its own traditions.
This isn't just diversity as we usually think of it. It's practically a multinational state. We are talking about more than 250 different ethnic groups speaking over 500 distinct languages. So to think of Nigeria as just one single thing is to kind of miss the point. It's really this vibrant collection of histories and cultures all united under one flag.
Okay, so a population this massive needs a seriously powerful engine to keep it moving forward. For Nigeria, that power really comes from 2 very different sources: the incredible natural wealth that's buried under its soil, and the explosive creative energy of its people.
For decades, Nigeria's lifeblood has been oil. I mean, this black gold has funded the state, it's projected its power, it accounts for the huge majority of government revenue. But it's also been the source of so much conflict, corruption, and economic dependency. It's a true double-edged sword.
But oil is definitely not the whole story. Not even close. Nigeria's other great engine is its culture. Now check this out. Its film industry, which they call Nollywood, actually produces more movies every single year than Hollywood. Just by sheer volume, it is the 2nd largest on the planet. That's an incredible testament to raw creativity and entrepreneurial fire.
And you absolutely cannot talk about Nigerian culture without talking about the music. Afrobeats has just exploded into this global phenomenon. You have artists like Burna Boy and Wizkid. They aren't just topping charts in Lagos anymore. They're selling out huge arenas in London and New York. They've become these powerful cultural ambassadors for a whole new generation.
So the picture that starts to form is one of real diversification. While oil is still critical, you can see all these other sectors rising to global importance. From agriculture, where Nigeria is the world's #1 cassava producer, to a booming tech scene that's becoming a hub for the whole continent, the foundations of Nigeria's economy are definitely getting broader.
But this modern giant, it wasn't born easily. Its story is one that was forged in the fires of colonialism, civil war, and just decades of political turmoil. To really understand the present, we have to look back at the scars of the past. Think about that for a minute. The actual name of the country was an external creation thought up by a British journalist to describe the territory around the Niger River. It wasn't some organic name from its own people. It was a label applied during the age of colonial ambition. It bound all these separate kingdoms and peoples together really for administrative convenience. And that act of convenience, well, it would set the stage for a century of conflict.
This timeline really traces that difficult journey. You have the forced unification in 1914, which was basically a marriage of convenience between 2 vastly different regions. Then, the incredible hope of independence in 1960, only to be shattered by a brutal civil war just 7 years later. That was followed by decades of military coups, a long, hard struggle that only finally gave way to stable democratic rule at the very end of the 20th century. And that history, it casts a very long shadow. The arbitrary lines that were drawn by colonial powers fused rival groups together, sowing the seeds of communal conflict that still exist today. And the legacy of military rule, it created a culture of corruption that continues to plague the country's institutions.
These aren't scars from a distant past. They are the active challenges shaping Nigeria's present right now.
So, after a journey through its people, its power, and its painful past, one big question comes up. Where does the giant go from here? And the answer, it seems, doesn't lie in its resources or its history, but in its single greatest asset, its youth.
This might be the single most important number if you want to understand Nigeria's future. The median age is just 18.4 years old. This isn't just a country, it's one of the youngest societies on Earth. And that youthfulness, it represents an unbelievable reservoir of energy, innovation, and potential for growth.
And you know what? The world is taking notice. Economists have identified Nigeria as one of the next 11 economies that are poised for major growth. It's part of the Mint Group, that's along with Mexico, Indonesia, and Turkey, as a rising economic power. And it's already a leader in African tech and finance, which is a huge sign of the potential that's just waiting to be fully unlocked.
So we're left with this, a nation that is a giant in every sense of the word, in its population, its cultural influence, its economic potential, but also in the scale of its challenges. The ultimate question then remains, will Nigeria's greatest and most abundant strength, its vibrant, young, and unbelievably resilient people, be the force that finally defines its future?